Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the podcast. Jack, I'm very up and about today. How are you doing?
Well, I'm good. I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm all right. This new week, so you chose this topic this week.
I did, and the topic I chose today is learning and self-education. Now, they're huge topics, and we're going to focus on self-education particularly, and maybe how we learn things outside of the typical, formal education. So it is a big topic, but we'll delve into it. But first, we always start. Our structure is always the same, Jack. We always start with what's something new we try this week. So the podcast is all about investing in yourself, investing in your community. So Jack, what did you do this week, or what did you try this week? You're starting us off.
All right, I'll do it. Look, I mean, yeah, every time we do the podcast, I think, what have I been doing? Like, what have I actually done? And the thing that I think has affected my life the most in the past week is just the amount of time I'm spending outside. So, as everyone knows, vitamin D is extremely important. Even though, yeah, it's not really a vitamin, it's more of a pro-hormone. As you know,
Correct.
I mean, you're the one who's a doctor in training, but, I'm well versed to an okay extent with these things. So, yeah, as a pro-hormone, responsible for so many things, chiefly, how calcium is absorbed in the body, etc. Anyway, the point I want to make is how just increasing your exposure to vitamin D outside is so important, and the role it plays in terms of the health of your bones and muscles and everything and well-being. There's so many studies how it's linked to happiness and all these positive hormones and chemical reactions. So I think everyone understands that anyway, but I just wanted to just mention that because I think sometimes we forget that, and it's a blessing to go outside. Sometimes the weather's a bit crap, or maybe you're busy. Like, I know me, I have to work inside. So just any opportunity, when got to have a coffee, I'll go outside. Buy to eat, go outside. Listen to something, I'll go outside whenever I can. And I feel like I've been a lot happier overall, and my sleep's improved too.
Awesome, man. I think absolutely, like they've said that early light exposure gets your circadian rhythm, so your sleep-wake cycle's going as well. So
I actually,
the more light exposure,
just
the
to
better.
cut in there, because that's exactly what I did. I stayed with some friends last weekend, and I was doing my morning routine, and because I was doing it by myself, I didn't realize how funny it looked. But when I wake up, the first thing I do is I like open my window and literally like stick my head like out out of like the blinds or curtains or whatever, and I just open my eyes and literally get the sun in, and I was getting roasted by everyone because they're like, mate, why are you sticking your head out the window? It looks so funny, but for your circadian rhythm, absolutely, mate. So I wanted to
Refer them to the Invest podcast. That's the key.
yeah, exactly. This is the podcast, guys.
But I want to touch on what you said. You're indoors a lot of the day. Maybe you can shed a little bit more about personally what your day-to-day looks like. But a lot of people now, students, full-time workers, part-time workers, people doing internships, it's online, right? It's mainly from home. And I mean, most people will acknowledge they need to get outside, but how do you actually structure that into your day? And maybe you can share a little bit more about what you do day to day and how you put in that outdoor time.
No, it's a great question. And I did want to touch on that as I was explaining it because, when I mentioned something, I want to talk about how I do it. So that way it can be helpful. So it's actually more than just an anecdote. It's actually could be something that can be implemented practically. So yeah, it's just when it's a nice day, viewing that as like an opportunity. So for me, it's a bit of a mindset thing where, okay, it's a nice day, great. But for me, even though I see that, I actually have the thought process of, okay, it's a nice day. This is an opportunity to actually improve my health. So I'm going to go outside. And yes, absolutely. Like I'll try and run somewhere instead of drive. Or I'll, as I mentioned before, if I have to do things that you just do day to day, like eating or having a coffee or whatever your normal routines are, I try to spend that outside because I'm doing it anyway. And as you may be aware of, like if you want to add a new habit or something, it's a lot easier to combine that with existing habits because it's something you already know. So I personally find that works for me. So if I want to create a habit of going outside more, I'll do it alongside things that are already habitual for me, like for example, having a coffee. So yeah, I mean, there's a couple examples, but I guess it depends on how your lifestyle is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important and it's that sort of active step of, look, I want to get more sunlight today. That's the first acknowledgement. And then maybe you got to pencil it in, write it down. At 10 o'clock, I'm going to take that break. 12:30 when I have lunch, I'm going to actively try and have it outside. I know where you are, Jack. It's pretty good weather at the moment. So wherever you are, if you do have the summer weather, make use of it. So yeah, All right. Well, I'll shoot with mine next. And
I'm
mine's,
excited.
I don't know. I don't know if it's controversial or it's just like
Oh, I love the
people cringe when
controversy.
they
Bring
hear
it
it.
on, man. This is great.
Yeah. I decided this week, and it's literally been the week, I decided I want to count calories. I think it's controversial because some people think, oh, it doesn't matter about calories, or you should just intuitively eat, or you should just live your life and not be strict. And my sort of reasoning behind it was I've always overeaten. I love to eat, and I exercise as well, but I do eat. I love my food and do eat quite a bit. So I thought, look, let's actually see how much I'm eating first of all, and then I can set a budget, so to speak. And that's what I feel like it is. You're just setting a budget, and this is the amount of calories you should have according to your body type, body weight, exercise level, all those things. So I started doing it this week, and it's very interesting. Like you just see, like Jack, I know you're very in tune with this, but like simply like having a Cadbury chocolate bar, like how many calories is that worth? Like it's like it opens your eyes when you actually start keeping track of it. I'd compare it to keeping track of your own, like if you never keep track of your own finances, like you just pay things and never check how much they actually are. And then one day you actually realize, wait, I'm paying this much for this subscription on this, and you actually keep track of it all. It's pretty eye-opening. So yeah, I mean, I think I'll keep doing it, to be honest, for as long as it takes me to sort of find intuitively, like, so I could know how much I'm sort of intaking. Just keeping track for now, I think, is important. So yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like we all have that kind of responsibility to know what we're doing. And it does get a bad rap. And I understand how when you brought up, you mentioned it could be controversial because yes, of course, there are dangers associated with those kind of activities because it can create the situation where someone is obsessing over something and then that can actually negatively impact their life. And obviously this can go to a far greater extent than what someone would have hoped for in the first place. But in saying that, it is just information. So yeah, as you said, you
The
track
tool.
your finances, or maybe you track how far you went on that walk, or how much time you spent on your phone on Instagram. So it's just more information, and I think it's a useful tool to learn about food. Like I think everyone should try doing that at some point, but for your whole life if you want. But it's good even just for a little bit, just to see. Oh, I didn't realize that was in that, or how these different macronutrients, how many calories are within each one, because obviously they're all different and the makeup of those macronutrients and micronutrients within food. So yeah, man, it's good that you're learning that information and you're just giving it a crack. And man, it's a bit eye opening, isn't it?
Oh, certainly is. Like, you just want to snack. And as you said, Jack, spot on. Like it shouldn't become an obsession. It's really just the laws of thermodynamics. You want to know how much you're putting in to your body versus how much you're taking out of it. So if you don't know how much you're putting in, it's hard to sort of estimate certain things like body composition or whatever it might be that your goal is. So yeah, I thought tried it this week, and it's been interesting, certainly.
No, that's great, and it is great to know. And it is also worth noting that it's good to give yourself a range, not a number as well, if you're trying to hit something. I just want to mention that because, and this is not nutritional advice, but a lot of labels can lie. There's a lot of ingredients that may not be there. The calorie content is different in most things. They actually have a range that they can say. And also things are cooked differently. There's all these, so it's so hard to know, like, to be very specific, but yeah, there's so much useful information there, and it can give you a general idea of if you're meeting your needs or not, maybe too much or too little or whatever. That's great, man. I think it's such a foundational part of being a healthy person is knowing what your input is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, man. So we'll see how that goes. So today's topic is self-education. That's really what I wanted to focus on. And Jack, it all stemmed from this quote that I heard was, formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. It's one of those ones that people quote. They take a picture in a suit, they put that quote above them, like, what I mean?
God.
Like
the photo has been screenshotted that many times and reposted. It's all grainy. And the account will be like life goals, motivation, like,
absolutely, man. So it is good, but I do understand the sentiment of it. And I wanted to address how sort of some tips we can give people to help self-learn, because I think self-education and self-learning is the foundation to investing in yourself, because maybe you're learning about what counting calories is, or,
great example,
a new skill. Yeah. Or like how to draw or something like that. Those self-education things are important. So I guess the definition of it is the ability to learn on our free will. So Jack, maybe you can discuss some instances where you've done sort of self-education, because I know you've self-taught yourself on quite a lot of things. So you can share on that, and what does self-education mean to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What a great topic when you mentioned that, like initially when you told me, because I thought we're both in education, like we both have a background in education, teaching, tutoring, etc. So yeah, we've even had to learn a lot ourselves. I think with self-education, there's different ways of doing that. I think sometimes people, you can just look up things and look into things. Other times it's opening up conversations with people and accepting that sometimes people will know more than you and they are the experts. So, you may have, like me, let's say I have a medical issue, I'll go to you, mate, because you're a doctor in training. So, no, but seriously, like, you'll talk to people that know more, I think is a great way to be educated. And even like through experience is a great self-educator as well. So, like, I think that's another important value because, yeah, when you ask, like, what is that to me? I think, well, what are the different types of self-education you can do? And yeah, I think those kind of things are a few examples. And yeah, man, it's so important because sometimes when we get educated, we're being taught through a specific lens. And oftentimes it's the lens of that teacher, which can usually be very good. And that's the reason why they're a teacher, because they can explain it in a certain way. But sometimes it is also good to see things through your own view, because maybe that new perspective might give you some new information or a new view on something or whatever. So yeah, man, I think, yeah, I mean, it's very crucial. I mean, what about you? Like, what does self-education mean to you? And in your own life, where or how do you feel like you do that practice?
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. I like how you said sometimes you learn through the teacher's lens. And the start of that quote was about formal education, and formal education we're often associated with university, college, high school, primary school, whatever it may be. And yeah, I think for me personally, I have had a lot of formal education. I'm still studying after many years, but through the medical field, I think you do have to do some self-education because things are always evolving. Like even at the start, you spoke about vitamin D, some of the things we're learning about certain pro hormones and things like that. It's constantly changing. So you need to self-educate, and it's sort of lifelong learning. But outside sort of the medical field, what I've learned through things I've worked on and so on, especially, my perspective of the world and perhaps finances, budgeting, things like that, have really been through self-education. And I'm someone that steered away from social media quite a lot, but I'll be honest, a lot of my self-education has come from social media. YouTube, I don't know if you can consider that social media, but kind of is.
Absolutely.
Definitely has taught me heaps, like just basics, from what is cryptocurrency to even like some songs on piano. Like there are some really broad things you can sort of self-educate through YouTube, through Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be. It's just using those tools correctly can help you. So yeah, I think that's really important. So yeah, I think that's it sort of complements, I guess, the classic what people think of self-education, which is reading books or paying for courses, going to webinars, that sort of thing. But yeah, social media can be like that. What's your thoughts on social media for
Oh
self-education?
yeah, man. I mean, there's so much out there now, and I picked up on the way you said the way to use these tools. So
Mm,
literally within your own subconscious, that's intentional or not, you've described social media as a tool, which I love because I
mm,
view it in the same way. I'm a
mm,
bit off the grid, you could say, in terms of posting all the things that I'm doing, blah blah blah. For me, it is a tool as well. So you use it as a tool to communicate with others, to maybe promote your own ventures or whatever. So yeah, anyway, going back to the self-education side of things, there is so much out there. Obviously, there can be things that are not true and things that are true. So you have to be wary of those things. And also, some people, have more grounds to talk on certain things. Like us, for example, we spent some time talking about nutrition, calories, vitamins, and stuff. I'm just a guy. I don't have any of those qualifications. So it may not be the best place. But in saying that, let's say me, who I've taught myself and I'm passionate about it, someone's listened and thought, oh, that's really interesting. I like that. Then they look into it more. So this is an example because, this podcast can be viewed on YouTube, which is a form of social media. And yes, there is a lot to learn out there. And absolutely, I go to YouTube and social media oftentimes to look into things. And yeah, I mean, even today, I went on YouTube and I looked up like, it's like how to cut a certain vegetable I haven't done before. Like it's so random. Like things like that is like a no-brainer. Like you can go out and get stuff. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that, because social media, I think, is so harmful in so many ways. But there is a bit of a silver lining, because now this access into information, this input overload that humans are not built for, that is damaging to our mental health, even though that is very harmful, this information also can be used to improve our lives. And yes, absolutely. I use my phone as a bit of a toolbox, and social media are different tools that I have, and we can use them. So yeah, what a great place to learn information, man. I agree with that completely.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it, information overload. So even self-education has to have some structure. You have to kind of set, okay, I can't learn everything in the world. Like Jack was saying, like perhaps I want to learn how to cut these vegetables and cook this certain dish, but perhaps I'm not going to be Gordon Ramsay over here. I can't learn that far, right? Unless that's your passion. It's just about saying, okay, there's certain things I want to learn and get out of my self-learning that can help structure and push you towards it. Like I think that's just with anything, right? You can't learn everything. So set the things you do want to learn and perhaps work towards mastery of those things. But Jack, if I may change up the pace, not going too off topic, is I think there's this notion out there that self-education is far superior to formal education or education you can provide. And maybe we can do this topic a little in depth later, but breaking down that stereotype is I looked into this, and I think there's this perception that like every billionaire on Forbes was like a college dropout, or like dropped out of high school, like barely had any formal education. But when I looked at the stats, only 11% of Forbes billionaires were college dropouts. 45% went to like elite, like universities or colleges, and 44% went to like just your average kind of college. So it is quite interesting to think that, yep, self-education is so important. And I'm sure even though they went to elite colleges or pretty good colleges, you still need to self-educate, no doubt. But self-education alone doesn't exactly result in the predictor of success, right? So yeah, I think it's a common misconception. You've studied, entrepreneurs and looked at their behaviors. Like, yeah, it seems that everyone thinks the Zuckerbergs, the Bill Gates, all those guys that dropped out, they're the standard, but they're really anomalies. They're only a small, 11% of those super successful people.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, generally speaking, the higher your education, the more likely you are to get a higher paying job if for you that determines success or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's a thing. But yeah, on the other hand, yes, there's this stereotype. I completely agree, where it's like, oh, all these successful people are dropouts and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, like even my own reaction when you told me it was only 11% of the Forbes CEOs or however you described. Yeah, I was surprised as well, because you wouldn't think that. Yeah, I guess they're both important, which is a bit of a cop out, but I mean, I think they're both important, because some formal education can really teach you a lot, especially if it's something that you need. Like you, for example, on your journey to become a doctor, you got to go to medical school. Like I don't want to be on the operating table and some guy is like, is this the spine or is this the femur? I don't know what the difference. Like, and I'm going to be like, hang on, you've had too much self-education, right? So you do need those institutions, even though a lot of them can be a bit too old school in thinking. Sometimes it is necessary, or even like school, for example, is a form of formal education. And there's so many things that you learn in school when you're a child, like outside of the, you could say like secular education, just textbook stuff. A lot of it is like communication skills and interpersonal relationship skills, and there is a lot there. But anyway, just to bring it back to what you're referring to, which I think is mostly just like tertiary education and like just going on your own and learning stuff. There's benefits to both, I think. Like what do you reckon is like the best part, like the best and worst of each? What is the best and worst of like formal education, and then the best and worst of like this self-education we're talking about?
Yeah, it's good. And I have thought about it because, as you said, my personal journey is one that I have to have a minimum requirement to go and seek formal education. But I'm not an advocate for either. I think it depends on the person and their journey and what they want to do. But definitely, I think structure. As you said before, like there's so much you can learn online. And if let's say you want to start your own business, there is so much on YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, everything.
Full
And
on
if you don't have
courses,
structure to
free courses.
yeah, there's so much. And if you don't have the structure or know how to go through something, then it can be really challenging. And of course, you have to try as well. You have to actually experiment and try. So I think the structure is a challenge with self-education. And formal education, as you said, sometimes it's outdated and people only cram and learn for the exams because they feel that they're going to be assessed. And perhaps there isn't as much real world exposure and actually going out there and doing things. So they're two challenges I'd say for each, and then overwhelmingly positive formal education. Apart from the structure, is networking. You meet people in the courses, in your lectures, things like that, and maybe it's in your dormitory or whatever your college university setup is. And then the best thing about self-education is you don't have to make that upfront financial investment, perhaps, and you can just try. You can just try, experiment, fail. And it's your time, it's your journey, and it's your free will to do that. So how do you see the positives and negatives of self and formal education?
Oh, look, I think, yeah, as mentioned, there's benefits and disadvantages to either one. And I like the way you broke that down. And to kind of launch off that last point, which is, just trying it, like just giving it a go versus having to do that upfront cost and having a proper thing. Like, let's say the situation with this podcast, you could do a full on, like, through an institution, a course on multimedia or communications or podcast making something, right? Or you could just go on YouTube and search how to start a podcast or Google it or whatever, right? Or just do it yourself because you'll learn. And I think we need to, as we mentioned a lot in this podcast, is about reducing the barriers to things that may be difficult or maybe you want to do but you haven't done, right? So reducing that resistance. And I think for most people, a financial situation can really limit their possibilities or their opportunities in life. And I think, reducing that financial barrier can be really important. So yeah, with this example with the podcast, you could pay up front for a proper course and that might be great, but you could also just try it yourself. And I think for a lot of people, removing that financial resistance may help them actually start. And that might actually in the long run help. And then if they need to get a proper education, they can. So I think that last point you brought up about one of the main benefits of self-education being free essentially is huge because let's be honest, money makes the world go around. And even though it's not the purpose of life or the reason why people are happy, it is probably one of the most important things to have to create opportunities in your life. So there's no denying that. And yeah, man, I think self-education is great because that way you can just kind of do as much or as little as you want without needing to worry about that other side of things.
Absolutely. So maybe we'll tie it up there and I'll just recap our points. So Jack's thing he tried this week was scheduling vitamin D breaks, going outside, getting it in the morning.
Just go outside.
Mine was,
you'll be happier.
Yeah, just get out more and see how it changes you. And mine was just keeping a budget of what you eat through calories, just using it as a tool, but obviously not taking it too fast. And then we discussed the idea of formal education versus self-education, pros and cons of both, but ultimately that you can use things as a tool like social media, YouTube, Reddit, all those things to educate yourself. So that's the summary. And Jack, you can do the outro.
Oh, absolutely, mate. I love your summaries. When you say that, I get excited. It's fantastic. You wrap it up perfectly, like you're folding some like burrito of a podcast episode. That's perfect, mate. But yeah, I'll do the outro,
Thanks,
mate.
man.
Great topic this week. If anyone wants any input or suggestions, feel free for the next episode next week. And we'll discuss a new topic surrounding investing in yourself, your community, and just creating a better life for yourself and everyone. So thank you all for listening. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.